Okay, this is the scale viability exercise. So in this exercise, we've just determined the belief system profile. So now we're going to make sure that it's actually viable in scale. And to do that, we actually have to confirm two different things. We have to confirm that it's small enough to create meaningful exclusions, to not be mass marketing, to move you away from commodities, to actually delight people who choose you. We also have to make sure that it's large enough to be meaningful to you as a change, and also large enough to sustain you and to make sure that you thrive as a practice. So what we have is a spectrum. We have mass marketing on one end, and we have super individualized marketing on the other. Mass marketing is for the average. It's diluted. It's a commodity. And on the other hand, we have hyper personalization. It's for the individual, but the problem is the personalized one just can't scale. It costs too much to personalize everything. People want too many things, so both ends end up not working. The goal is actually to be around here, closer to personalization, but not quite. Something we can scale, and also not mass marketing. Obviously, we want to get far away from that. The first place we want to start is by asking, is it small enough? And we want to start off with small enough first. We don't want to start off with, are we large enough? And then start narrowing down. Because what happens if we do that is we're leading with size. We want to lead with alignment to the change we want to make. We want to lead with the BSP. We want to make sure that is fully aligned before we look at size. The approach we want to avoid is to say, okay, we need X amount of people to be a thriving practice. So let's find a BSP that will fit that. Because if we do that, then we break alignment with the change that we want to make, and the whole system breaks apart. So first, we want to check, is it small enough? If it's too small, then we can expand it. If it's too large, then we should first narrow it down before we move on to checking for size for large scale. So first, is it large enough? The whole point of the belief system profile is precision. A belief system profile should create meaningful exclusions, not broad inclusions. If the group is too large, everything downstream breaks. Meaning becomes unpredictable, feelings diverge, tension is weak, promise becomes generic. I haven't talked about tension or promise, but you'll learn about that later. And your practice cannot be designed coherently. So the very first filter is my group specific enough that it excludes most people? If not, large enough testing is pointless because the group is still mass. You're still doing mass marketing, so we have to make sure it's small enough. If that is, if you disagree with going small, then rewatch the video on why we need to avoid mass marketing. All right, this is going to be kind of exciting because we get to use AI now. So the first thing we're going to do in order to test for smallness enough, or to test if it's small enough, is to determine our impact percentage. And the point of this exercise is to see who fits into our BSP, how large that market is, and to see if we affected every single one of them, what would that look like? Like, what is the impact potential of our BSP? So your impact percentage is the percentage of the serviceable population, so people who are eligible to you, who share your BSP. That's also known as your core patient group. So this percentage is your potential for impact. First, use an AI tool to estimate the eligible population within a competitive driving distance of your office. So basically, we want to find the people in your area who would drive to you and find who is eligible to become a patient of yours. So if you work with children and braces, let's say, basically your eligible population are going to be people who are eligible for braces. That age range, I guess it goes further, so that's a bad example. But let's say you work with geriatric patients. So that would be who's in that age range, who's eligible in that distance. So you would write in AI, give me a conservative population estimate of blank. So if it's general dentistry, it's probably going to be adults within a competitive driving distance from, and put in your address here. So what that will do is it will output the entire population, your entire potential This isn't your CPG. This is just the general market. This is how most people would determine their targeting. So that's what it would generate. It would generate a population. It should be north of 100,000, I'm going to assume. So write down the eligible population, take the average if it's a range. So the AI tool might generate a range for you. If that's the case, just take the average. Use an AI tool. So this is step number 3. Use an AI tool to estimate the percentage of that population who fit your BSP. So we have the total potential market. So people who are eligible and people who are within driving distance from your office. And we're going to ask AI, of that population, give me a conservative estimate for the number of people who would share all of these beliefs. And then write down the 5 beliefs that you identified in the previous exercise. So of that population, give me a conservative estimate for the number of people who would share all of these beliefs. And I would write, they believe that health is something to be proactive about. They believe that what it means to be a good person is to be responsible, etc. Give me a conservative estimate. So some AI tools are better at this than others. When I tested it, ChatGPT was good. Perplexity AI was good. Google Gemini kind of failed to give me, and it would say that it couldn't estimate. If you get an AI that says it can't estimate, just try a different one. There's a lot of free ones out there. And so give that a go. Give me a conservative estimate for the number of people. So by the end, you should have the population of total eligible and population of just your CPG. So who shares your belief system profile. So write down the CPG population. Again, if it's a range, take the average, and now finally divide the CPG population by the eligible population. That is your impact percentage. So of the market that you thought was your market, your actual market is just a tiny percentage of that. And also write down the number of people that is within the CPG. So about 40% is way too big. You have a generic BSP, you're still a commodity. Anything from 15 to 25% is still pretty broad. We're going to want to tighten that. Anything less than 1% is going to be still too narrow. We're going to want to expand that. So right about 1 to 10% is a very good starting point. If you're within that range, I would consider you very good. So too large, then replace generic beliefs with sharper ones. So for example, let's say you're into 40%, let's say you're into 15+%, then you would say, I care about my health was maybe a belief that you brought over. That's very broad. A lot of people share that belief, so we would tighten one of them. So replace one of the beliefs at a time until it's sharp enough. Same thing with if it's too small, then just widen the beliefs. So I care about prevention when it's on a discount, right? We would just enlarge. We would enlarge that to I care about prevention. Okay, so the point of that exercise was to see what percentage of the eligible population falls under your BSP. And you might say like, okay, we have an entire market here and I've narrowed down our BSP and it's just 2% of the population. That's pretty crazy. Like, how is that good for me? So let's do the next exercise, which is it large enough? So let's see if that is actually enough for you. So is it large enough? Determine your baseline percentage. Your baseline percentage is the percentage of the serviceable population you need to serve in order to be thriving. So what is that percentage, that minimum threshold we need? And what is the actual impact percentage that we got? So use an AI tool to estimate the number of active patients you need to thrive. So give it the following prompt. As a blank, so if you're an orthodontist, you would put an orthodontist. As a general dentist in this city, give me a conservative estimate for the number of active patients I must have to be a thriving practice. And surprisingly, they'll do a very good job at giving you a good estimate. Again, if it's a range, get the average, and then reference the eligible population above. So you'll have the eligible population, the total potential market, not your CPG, divide how many you need in order to be thriving. So that percentage, or take that into consideration, divide active patients by eligible population, and you will end up with a baseline percentage. And what you'll notice is that your baseline percentage will be tiny. The actual percentage of the market that you need to serve in order to be thriving is very, very small. And your impact percentage, the actual percentage of people that you have available to serve, is going to be much bigger than your baseline percentage. So what can we learn from this? We like our sense of scale has been wrong the whole time. We think we need to serve everyone, but in reality, we only really need to serve a small percentage of the population. And once we know that, it's much easier and our marketing gets more aligned when we narrow down. It becomes the default option. It becomes the no-brainer option. All right, so let's say you do the baseline and your impact percentage is, so two questions to validate. Is your impact percentage higher than your baseline percentage? Would impacting that number of people be worthwhile for you? So it's asking you to validate the impact percentage, which we did this step before. Answer to both should be yes. So if your impact percentage is lower than your baseline percentage, that means you need to widen your impact percentage. Would impacting that number of people be worthwhile to you? That should be yes, but if not, then again, widen your impact percentage or widen your impact beliefs, widen your belief system profiles, one of the beliefs. Is the baseline percentage too small? That's what I mean is like the impact percentage, then start widening the impact percentage. All right, I think you get the idea. And here are certain disclaimers at the bottom. Avoid leading with scale. So don't think, okay, I'll need 1,000 active patients for my marketing to be viable. Therefore, I'll think of a belief system that has approximately 1,000 people in my area. That's a mistake. We talked about this. You're leading with size as a determining factor, not the best fit. So what that's going to mean is you'll get less predictable resulting feelings, which is, I think we kind of covered it, the feeling. And if that's less predictable, then the whole system kind of breaks apart. Pick the beliefs, then estimate if there are enough people nearby with those beliefs, and then adjust. All right, once you've determined and validated your belief system profile, you now have the 5 factors, the 5 core beliefs that are going to determine how is it that I'm going to be remarkable to these people. So these 5 beliefs are what we're going to lead by in everything. So the next step is to design your events in a way that will create a better meaning. So we looked at beliefs and events and how they come together through the lens of culture, status, and past experiences. We're going to start tweaking the events so that it creates much better meaning. And we'll take a look at that in the next module.